The baseline assumption of modern neuroscience is that your conscious life, every memory, feeling, and thought, is generated exclusively by the biological machinery inside your skull. But this leads straight into the mystery of how physical matter creates subjective, qualitative experiences. We understand the mechanics of how light hits the retina or sound waves vibrate the ear, but there is no clear explanation for how physical, wet tissue produces the actual feeling of seeing the color red. Because science cannot bridge that gap, researchers rely on a proxy. They map the correlations. We observe a specific brain region lighting up and record a corresponding subjective experience. But just because two events happen simultaneously doesn't mean one causes the other. A third hidden factor could drive both. Think of a television set. If you measure the voltage inside the circuits, it correlates perfectly with the picture on the screen. But the TV hardware isn't creating the broadcast itself, it's merely receiving and displaying it. To test whether the brain is generating the signal of consciousness or merely tuning into it, we must look at what happens to awareness when the biological hardware is completely shut down. This brings us to the intensive care unit, the clinical environment where near-death experiences, or NDEs, are most frequently documented. Specifically, the data points that challenge the standard model are known as veridical NDEs. These are cases where clinically unconscious patients accurately report real-world objective events that occurred while they were unresponsive. The standard materialistic hypothesis dismisses NDEs as hallucinations caused by a dying brain. But hallucinations create disjointed fantasies. They do not typically produce highly accurate, externally verifiable data. Take the documented case of psychiatrist Bruce Grayson and his comatose patient Holly. While entirely unresponsive and with her eyes closed, she later accurately detailed a conversation Dr. Grayson had with her friend in a lounge at the far end of the hallway. She even correctly noted a fresh tomato sauce stain on his tie. Or consider the case of Anita Morjani. While she lay completely unconscious in a hospital bed, she possessed accurate awareness that her brother was on an airplane thousands of miles away, anxiously coming to see her. These patients had zero physical sensory input, yet their perceptions matched external reality with a level of detail that the hallucination hypothesis fails to account for. To examine the limits of the brain materialism model, we can look to the specific clinical parameters of the Pam Reynolds case. To safely operate on a brain aneurysm, her surgical team stopped her heart, drained the blood from her head, and cooled her core body temperature to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Clinical measurements recorded during the surgery showed a completely flat EEG and an absence of all brainstem reflexes. Her brain was biologically inert. Yet during this exact window of complete biological shutdown, she reported a hyper-lucid, out-of-body awareness. She accurately described the specific surgical bone saws the doctors used and recounted exact conversations between the medical team, all while the clinical monitors confirmed her brain lacked the electrical activity neuroscience considers necessary for conscious experience. If perception remains accurate while the brain is scientifically incapable of generating experience, it suggests that consciousness functions independently of our biological systems. Based on this clinical evidence, awareness appears capable of perceiving objective reality even when it is not tethered to a functioning physical body. Physicist Jan Pilotti offers a model to account for these anomalies. He suggests the physical brain is not a creator of consciousness, but rather a biological limiter. Pilotti compares the brain to a house with heavy shutters. To survive the immediate physical environment, the brain restricts our view, letting in a tiny, manageable fraction of a much larger reality. But during a cardiac arrest or a near-death experience, those biological shutters fail. The brain ceases to function as a filter, allowing consciousness to perceive a much larger portion of reality without restriction. Pilotti's six-dimensional spacetime diagram shows conscious experiences existing independently of the brain. The central sphere represents our ordinary sensory experiences. In the upper right quadrant, thoughts and future worlds exist as objective structures. Without biological limits, consciousness directly interacts with these non-physical events. As awareness persists when the brain is inert, it suggests that the I is a persistent feature of the universe's geometry, interacting through the body but not defined by its biological decay. Thanks for watching. Produced by Synestec Systems LLC and founded by Shane Persinger, we explore the intersection of science and the survival of human consciousness.